Back when I first started out in the motor trade 32 years ago, if you had a customer that wanted a new car but only had the budget for a used one, then you'd be directing them towards such brands such as Lada, Yugo, FSO with its Polonaise, and believe it or not kids, Skoda, because our beloved Czech brand was once the purveyor of small cheap cars from behind the Iron Curtain. But these days people's tastes, and dare I suggest their wants, have changed, especially in the new world of electrification, even if their budgets haven't. Now let's take a budget of round about £15,000 and you want to go all electric. What is there? Well, you are going to have to look at a used car because of course up until now electric cars, as we know, have been quite expensive. So you'd be looking at maybe something such as a pre-owned Renault Zoe or a Skoda Citigo or a Volkswagen e-up. All very good cars, but used cars nonetheless. But what if you wanted a new car, but your budget was still for a used one? Well, all is not lost because thankfully Dacia have now launched this, a new electric car for the price of a used one. Welcome to this week's road test review, welcome to the new Dacia Spring, and as always, welcome to AutoEV. Now before I get started on this week's review of Dacia's new Spring, it is of course the time where I would ask you for a little favour. Could you please make sure that you're subscribed to the AutoEV channel? Go on, do it now, it won't take a second, I'll wait for you, yeah? Just go and do it now, yeah? And then, once you've done that, press the bell button, because that means you'll get notified when the next video is uploaded and it's gone live. Once you've watched the review, if you enjoy it, and obviously I hope you do, then of course give it a wee thumbs up, and of course, as always, don't forget, leave me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think about the cars review on AutoEV, such as the new Dacia Spring, and of course on the channel as a whole. Now, I was a little bit unsure of how to start this week's review because other people who have reviewed this car have really focused in on its price, and it's hard not to with the headline grabbing 14,995, which is where the car starts at. And I was looking actually about it when I was sort of like putting all my sort of like stuff down, you know, sort of like all my wee bits of information down, and I started to look at what else you could buy for that, and it's comparable with all the sort of like the combustion engine cars in this class. So Dacia have got a real thing going here, because obviously up until now we've been used to this real price difference between electric cars and combustion engine cars. But not here, because things like the Kia Picanto, the Toyota Aygo X, the Hyundai i10, those kind of cars, they're all round, Dacia's own Sandero, they're all round about this price. So I'm thinking to myself, so price is obviously parity with what you'd expect for a small city car. Where's the compromise? There has to be a compromise somewhere, because surely you can't get an electric car that does the everyday grind that we want from a small A-segment city car for the same price as a combustion engine one. Surely something has to give. But as always, let's take a look at the main points of the new Dacia Spring before we start the review. So this is the second generation Dacia Spring, replacing the previous car that was never actually sold in the UK. Since launching back in 2021, Dacia has sold over 150,000 Springs, making it the third best-selling battery electric vehicle in Europe. 3 variations of the car are available across 2 trim levels, all featuring a 26.8 kWh battery for a WLTP range of up to 140 miles. And the car comes with a choice of 2 power ratings, either a 45 horsepower model or a 65 horsepower model. And prices start, like I said, from just £14,995, depending on the model before options fitted. Ah, Bryan, I hear you all say, there's your compromise, a range of only 140 miles. Well, hang on a second, let's think about this. Because according to Dacia's own research, its customers do, on average, 23 miles a day, meaning that the Spring has a potential to do a week's worth of driving before it needs charged again. And if we think about another small electric car, such as the Mazda MX-30, which is almost twice the price of the Spring, it has less of a range. And also, if we think about the used situation, the used car situation we spoke about at the beginning, your budget for a used car, what would it get you? It'd be something like a Renault Zoe, a Nissan Leaf, maybe a Skoda Citigo. And those cars didn't really do this sort of range when they were new back then. So that's not the compromise either. So where is it? How are we going to find out? Well, how we're going to find out is by putting it through the road test that actual car buyers trust when it comes to choosing their next electric car. And that, well, that one's the AutoEV, folks. Well, as always, we start with how the car looks. They don't seem to have cut many corners here, have they? I don't think there's many compromises here, because this is Dacia's new design language, and I'm a big fan of it. I really like it. Now, over on my other channel, House of Cars, I've tested their Jogger and the new Duster. Both very good cars, really like them. In fact, I reckon the Jogger is possibly the best car in the real world in some respects, but that's not for today. They've done this with the Spring. They've followed the family lines, if you like. They've kept the family resemblance there, and it follows through as well with also the little Sandero Super Mini as well. And it's the sort of Y shape that you get. So your indicators and DRLs are up here, and they're in that Y shape. Headlights are mounted there, and then of course you've got the sort of the grille across the front. Obviously it isn't a grille, you know, with the Dacia logo sort of in the centre, the DC logo in the centre. Now this is your charge flap, and I genuinely thought, well, there's an area they've cut costs, obviously, because it won't be it'll just spring open, and it doesn't. There's an interior release for it. You've got to release it from the inside. So they haven't cut corners there. You know, some manufacturers, it's quite, and you know, think that's going to break, that's going to fall. It doesn't. It feels robust. You've got to open it from the inside. Dacia are also very clever about their manufacturing, trying to keep costs down, not just for them in the manufacturing process, but also means that they can then translate that across to the buyer when you come to actually buy the car. And of course, if you come to repair it as well, you need to think about repair costs, because accidents do happen. And what they do is the plastic mouldings that are around the car, you know, that you see around the wheel arches, down the sills and the bumpers, they're what they call dyed in the mass. So in other words, the colour is added when the plastics are made, and they're not sort of like coloured afterwards, meaning that if they get scratched, it's the same colour. It doesn't matter. You can't see it. You can't see the scuffs and the bangs on it, which is perfect for a little city car. And this area here around the number plate on this Extreme model is like a sticker. I think it's sort of like a cityscape, I think. I'm not sure. I need to maybe find out what that is. But that is what it is. It's just a sticker. So again, if that gets damaged, you go to your dealer, you buy a new sticker, and you pop it on. Doesn't really seem much of a compromise to me, certainly from the front end. It looks like a Dacia. It looks like the small city car, which is exactly what it is. It has the family resemblance, but it still has a lot of thoughtful, well executed sort of like construction and design methods help to keep costs down. Now, it's an A-segment city car, okay, so 3.7 metres in length. That's the sort of size we're talking about. If you've got something like a Kia Picanto, a Toyota Aygo X, a Hyundai i10, it's that size of car, yeah, okay, so that's the sort of size that we're looking at here. All Springs are 5 doors, so they're all 5-door cars. You don't get 3 doors in them. Look, again, you know, nice plastic wheel arch extensions, keep the sort of bodywork free from scuffs in car parks and stuff. 15-inch wheels across both models. There's 2 trim levels we'll talk about later, but both get 15-inch wheels, steel wheels with wheel trims. Again, easy and cheap to replace if they're damaged. Decal down at the bottom there, again, that's easily to replace. Body colour door handles, which I like. And there was a few things I thought to myself, you know, I remember when I started selling cars back in the 1992, and you'd certain, you know, base model cars, passenger door mirrors were optional, wheel trims were optional, head restraints were optional. It's all here. And I thought to myself, well, there's got to be a compromise here somewhere, isn't it? It's probably going to be one of those rear windows that just pops open. It doesn't actually wind down. Not only does it wind down, it's bloody electric. It's got electric windows. Spring logo across the back of the rear C-pillar. As I say, you'll notice the slightly raised ride height makes the car easy to get in and out, which is handy, obviously, if you've got limited mobility, which is good. No chrome on the car either, which a lot of manufacturers are moving away from. So it speaks to sort of like the environmental side of it, because chrome's not great for the environment. And again, it keeps the cost down, sort of like in terms of repair costs, and easy to make. But yeah. What a great looking little car. I really like it. And at the back, look at it. Again, you get your Y sort of like shapes in the rear lights. Where is it? Yeah, the Y sort of like shaped rear lights. I like those. This section here is really nice. I like this. This is quite a Dacia thing, where you've got like almost like a gloss black panel with then the matte black hatching across an inset Dacia logo in it. That doesn't look cheap. That looks quite expensive, I think. You know, it gives a feeling of good quality. You know, and again, you know, you've got things such as obviously rear wash wipe, which you'd expect, but this one's got a reverse camera. It's tucked underneath there. Electric boot latch. You know, there's that sticker again. You know, you get the sticker at the back just to help with the bumper, and obviously if that gets scratched, you can easily replace it. And there's no badging on them, you know, it's just sticker badging. So again, keeping the cost down. But what a great looking little car. I really like it. I think Dacia's design language is really good. It's that sort of like robust simplicity almost about their cars. That's really quite cool. You know, they've got 3 pillars that they try to, you know, emulate, and I'll talk about that a wee bit later on. But I think this is a great looking little car. I really do. I don't think it looks cheap. I think it looks every bit as good, you know, as I say, as a Kia Picanto or a Hyundai i10 or any of its other sort of competitors. But what do you think? What do you think about the car? Do you like it? Would it tempt you? Apart from the price, we'll get on to price and stuff later. But in terms of the way that it looks, is it your cup of tea? Let me know in the comment section down below. So, small A segment city car, relatively short in length. You're not going to have a big boot, are you? You'd be surprised, because what you get is 308 litres of boot space. And if you fold the rear bench down, which doesn't split in fairness, it takes total capacity up to just over 1,000 litres. Now 308 litres is more than you get from a Kia Picanto, which isn't electric. And it's only 1 litre less than you get in the Peugeot 208, which is a B segment Super Mini, a class above this. I think that's pretty decent. Now you can buy extra storage for underneath the bonnet. You can buy like a cable storage thing for under the bonnet. But in fairness, what I did find this morning is I can actually get the cables underneath the boot floor, because there is a well for a spare wheel, but not a spare wheel. So there's the tire foam thing, and I can get all, if you fold the cables up neatly enough, which I haven't, you can actually get the normal Type 2 cable in there, plus as well the granny charger, the emergency car. I don't think that's bad at all. Now the compromise here is you can see there's some cost cutting, because obviously the boot floor is made effectively of cardboard, but one, that's not just cheap to make, it also makes it recyclable. So I do like that in fairness. And normally what I would do now to demonstrate is put 4 suitcases in the boot of the car, because that's what I do. But I was thinking to myself, nobody that buys a Spring is really going to use it for airport runs, are you? You're not going to be like an Uber driver that you're going to use for running people out to Heathrow. You're going to use it for nipping down to shops. You're going to use it for shopping bags. You're going to use it for your everyday stuff. So, I've been shopping, and I've got my bags for life here. Wife's going to kill me. Right, so there's 1, that goes in there. There's 2, that goes in there. 3, that goes in there. Hang on, there's 4, that one goes in there. And then there's our 5th one. Oh, is that going to go in there? Yeah, that slides in there. And oh, hang on a minute. There's my jacket. That can go in there. There's my rucksack, camera bag, and my tripod bag. And I still get more in there. That's brilliant. Do you really need more than that? Well, look, it is quite small back here, obviously, because it is a small city car. Okay, so that's my driving position. But I can get in, and I can put my feet all the way underneath the front seat, and there is a flat floor across. So although I'm having to sit with my knees slightly apart to, you know, to accommodate the sort of like the tombstone style front seat, I can sit here. You know, again, if I was, you know, being offered a lift somewhere, or someone was taking me into, you know, sort of like town or something, you know, as long as they were my height and I'm 5'8", or you just had the kids in the back of the car, you know, it's okay. You know, it's never going to be hugely commodious. It's not like the Hyundai Enster in that sense, another brilliant little city car. So it's more conventional sort of like size of car, and when it comes to interior space than that car. Maybe they should have maybe done away with maybe a bit of boot space and slid the seat back. I don't know, but that's what you've got, okay? You've got obviously ISOFIX points, which are relatively easy and straightforward to get to. 3-point belts, as you'd expect. But that's your lot. There's no storage back here other than, mind you, in saying that, they're pretty deep, those pockets on the backs of the front seats, but there's no door bins back here, and there's no connectivity back here, as you'd expect. But as I say, there's electric windows, there is head restraints. Oh, what I didn't mention was the back seat backrest. If you fold that down, it only folds in one. It doesn't, it's not a split folding rear seat, so that will take total capacity up to, I think it's 1,005 litres that you get. So it's okay again for the size of car, but it doesn't split fold. But then neither does the MG3, again, the sort of like the B segment Super Mini. It has a single piece backrest on the back seat, so we can't really fault Dacia for that. Okay, lack of storage and a little bit tight if the driver was a bit taller, if you had an adult behind you. But what do you expect for this style of car? It's not really much of a compromise, I don't think, to get a car like this. Right, interior. Is there a compromise to be made here? Well, I don't think there is, in fairness. And I'm just going to go on to talk about that. But look at that, you get a key. Isn't that fun? Just pop it inside there. I'll start the car up. Just to give it a twist, and the car starts, if you like. I'm just going to pop on the aircon because it's going to mess up otherwise. Right, okay, I want to talk about the interior design first because I really like Dacia's design of interiors, a bit like the exterior. There's an element of it that reminds this. It doesn't matter whether or not you've got this, you know, £15,000 Spring or whether you go for a £28,000 Duster. This is their interiors. This is what they look like. I love. It's like this robust simplicity that they've got that I really like. Now, if you were watching the other week when I'd reviewed the Alfa Romeo Junior, I really criticised the car. I loved the design of the interior, but the materials were shockingly bad for a car like that. Whilst the Spring does have hard plastics and scratchy plastics in here, that's just Dacia. Okay, so it's not like they've cut back on here. This is just how they build cars. And the difference with the Spring is how well built it is. It doesn't move, it doesn't creak, it doesn't rattle, which is not something I could say about the Alfa. The cowling of the Alfa was moving in my hand. This doesn't. It's really well built. So yes, it is harder plastics, but that just means that they'll clean easily, they'll wipe clean. And it's the same with the seat trim. Now this is, you get two models, you get the Expression and the Extreme. This is an Extreme, so you get this sort of like almost leatherette vinyl on the edges of the seats with a sort of like a cloth bit in the middle. It's blue at the bottom, this lovely green at the top with the bronze stitching. You just know that's going to be simple to wipe clean. So the kids jump in after football practice with their boots, their muddy boots or their muddy shorts, you're just going to be able to wipe it clean. You can get rubber floor mats, you just take them out, hose them down and chuck them back in. That's the stuff I'm talking about. That's the stuff I like, and that's the stuff that Dacia does really well. They think about how people might use the car and just make it easy. Okay? It doesn't feel sparsely equipped either. Now, as I say, this is the Extreme model, so you do get the infotainment screen, which I'll talk about in a second. But you get this driver's display in front of me here that's configurable from this multifunction steering wheel. So I've got three different outlooks I can look at. I'll start again. Three different views that I can see on this driver display. So you get your speed readout at the top, your gear indication display, your range to go at the bottom, and then your ancillary bits depending on what you want. So you can have it where you can see your safety system's working. So it has got things such as lane keep assist, lane departure warning, speed limit detection. All of that's there. So you're not losing out on any of that. And you can go down there, and now you've got an economy meter now, and then the third screen just keeps things nice and simple. So the speed readout and all that, and just your range to go at the bottom. That's the same as the new Duster. That's what the new Duster has, and it's twice the price of this car. Right, so as I say, you move from the Expression to the Extreme and you get this 10-inch display, this infotainment display, which has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It's quite basic in its functionality, but isn't that a good thing? You know, so you get a DAB radio, you get Bluetooth, you go in here, look, there's all your little icons there, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, Device Manager, apps, navigation. It's got inbuilt navigation. I think it's got something like with 8 years worth of updates that are already in the car. Now, if you go for the Expression, your phone effectively becomes the infotainment system. It has a phone holder that just integrates into the phone. Now, I don't think that's a bad thing. In fact, in some respects, I think it might even be a bit better, because as we all use our phones now for things such as music, navigation, you use Waze or whatever, isn't it a great thing that means that your infotainment will always be as up to date as your phone is? So if you're updating your phone every year, you're going from an iPhone, I don't know, 14 to 15 to 16 or whatever it is, that will be as up to date. Your infotainment will always be as up to date as your phone is. I don't think that's a bad way of doing it at all. So you're bringing the tech to the car. The design of it, as I say, is very similar to the Duster. So you get the Y-shape things here. This is this green section here, like the green here with the bronze in the middle. That's the sort of colour of the car, if you like, the colour scheme of Dacia, and I do like that. And then below that, you get some physical buttons here. So you've got electric window switches. Electric windows. They're not on the door panel, so you don't have to worry about, again, different wire looms and repairs. So all the tech is sort of like in the centre of the car, effectively. So it's nice and easy to build in. The wiring loom's a lot easier to build, which means it's a bit cheaper, and then cheaper to replace. So you've got that. You've got your things for like economy, going into your eco mode, hazard warning switch, and the best thing of all is it adopts the My Personal, or Safety Perso as they call it, from Renault. So you can program it to turn, so if you want to turn off things like speed limit warning, lane keep assist and stuff like that, 1, 2 presses, all off. Why does not other manufacturers do that? All the stuff that we want to turn off, 2 presses of a button and it's off. You just program what you want it to turn off, and then you press it a couple of times and it turns it all off. This is a basic car, and it's got something as simple as that. My Genesis GV70's like nearly 80 grand. It doesn't have that. It's got to go through loads of screens. You don't get climate control, you get manual aircon, but I don't mind that so much. So you've got your temperature again over on this side here, and then your fan speed there, and then there's 2 USB-C connectivity points there. Now, the other thing that Dacia do is this really simple thing called U-clip. And I do like this. You won't be able to see it, but it's down there. There's a couple of them around the car. And this means you can now buy accessories from your Dacia dealer to sort of like make the car work for you. So for instance, if you want a phone holder there, you can buy one from Dacia. It just clips straight onto that clip. You can buy one that has a charging pad in it as well. So again, to charge it, because there's no wireless charging in here, but you can buy one that just clips into that to hold your phone in place. You can buy it as a cup holder if you want a cup holder, or there's an extra, I think there's a one down the side somewhere for a little bag. Again, if you're going into, because if you don't have enough storage, but I'm going to get onto that in a minute, you can buy a little bag where you can chuck stuff in, and it just clips onto these little clip things. Again, a really simple idea, and I think a lot of the stuff as well is 3D printed to keep the cost down. Great, isn't it? The steering wheel is a slightly squared off shape, because obviously you get to be able to see the dashboard design, but it's actually quite, and it's plastic, it's not like leather or leatherette or vinyl or anything. It is a plastic wheel, but actually it feels again robust in the hand. It's quite a nice wheel to hold. It's a nice size, it's a nice shape, and you still get a multifunction. So you still get on this side the ability to scroll up and down things on the dashboard, and then there's your cruise control over on this side. You also get the Renault audio pod, this column stock out the side, so for adjusting your temperature of your audio, or your phone calls and switching between modes and sources, that's on there as well. So that's there as standard on this one. It's got electric wing mirrors as standard on this model as well. Storage is superb. Absolutely superb. Whilst it's not an open floor cockpit, in other words, you can't move from one seat to the other like you can in, say, the Hyundai Insta, you do get a big storage bin down here. You can chuck your wallet into, your phone. There's one here. There's a manual handbrake. That's interesting. And again, there's a little tray down beneath that, which will take other stuff like keys and things. You don't have a cup holder or bottle holder in the centre unless you buy it for the U-clip system. However, the door bins are shaped, and they will take my big Yeti coffee flask. In fact, actually, you can get two. There's two shapes in there, so you can get a water bottle behind it, and that's on both sides. Then you've got this tray in front of the passenger as well. And I love the fact they've done this sort of like white sort of like plastic round it just to lift the cabin. So as well as the green and bronze Dacia signature colours, you get this nice little white framing of the digital cluster, and then round the sort of like the passenger shelf area, and then the door bins are the same, and then round the transmission selector as well. So it just lifts the car, it lifts the interior. Now I did read somewhere, sorry, hang on, I'm just going to go to my notes. There is an additional, where is this? Where did I put it? The interior. Oh, here we go, yeah. So you get door bins, they're 4.9 litres in volume. 4.9 litres of the volume of the door bins, that's amazing. So whilst there's none in the back, there's loads of space in the front. You also get a glove box as well, which obviously you can put gloves in and all the rest of it. The seats are actually really nice. They're very comfortable. You do sit quite close to the door panel. That's the only thing I will say. So if you are a taller than me, which as I say would not be difficult to be, you will notice how close to the door you are, but you do get a nice sort of like armrest there for your right arm, but you are quite close to that door bin, and there's nothing really mounted on the door. As I say, the mirror, it's on the dashboard, the electric windows are down here, so there's nothing really mounted on the door, but you are noticeable how close you are to that door panel. That being said, the driving position itself is very comfortable. You get a good view out, you get a good visibility down the sides of the car. As I say, there's a nice steering wheel to hold there. The column stalks on either side in the right position, and that's nice and easy just to reach across if you need to change anything on your nav, or you want to adjust your fan speed or anything. It's all within easy reach. So to me, there's no compromises to be made in here either. There really isn't. I think this has got pretty much everything you'd expect. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, which is wireless. Yeah, argumentally we'd say it'd be nice to have a wireless charger, but you can still buy one for it. You can still buy one for the U-clip that clips to it. It doesn't have climate control, but at least it's got manual aircon, and you've got all that safety kit as standard. And it's a comfortable little car to sit in, and you've got plenty of storage space. So no, there's not really any compromises to be made in here as far as I can see. Right. Maybe, just maybe, there might be a wee compromise here. So it's a 26.8 kilowatt hour battery that you get on the Spring, irrespective of the model that you buy, whether it's the Expression or the Extreme. And that gives a WLTP range of up to 140 miles. Again, I don't think that's the compromise, in fairness. The compromise might be when it comes to the charging. In some respects, you see the maximum charge rate that the Spring will take is 30 kilowatts, meaning that if you're going from your usual benchmark 10 to 80% charge using sort of like when you're out and about, one of those rapid chargers, it's 45 minutes. So maybe that's the downside. Maybe it's limiting you if you're using the car for a longer trip because of the time you've got to stop and charge. Okay, so maybe that is a small compromise to make. However, listen to this. You can charge the car from a domestic 3-pin plug quite easily, and because of the small battery that it has, it means that going from flat to full is less than 11 hours. If you've got a 7 kilowatt wall box like I have, it's only 4 hours to do a maximum charge on the car. And the other thing about the Spring is, it's got bi-directional charging. So you can power off things off the car as well. You know, so for instance, if you're out and about, you know, you're going to the beach for the day and you've got, I don't know, an electric barbecue or something, or you're in the garden and your plug doesn't stretch to the sort of like the indoor, your leaf blower doesn't stretch to the inside of the car. You can plug it into the car and blow the leaves off the driveway with it. What other small electric car at this price point has that ability to do that? So maybe that's not the compromise either. Right, how does the Spring drive? Well, here's something to think about. When I booked this car, this was a slightly different sort of press launch in some respects, because normally what we do is we turn up at a launch event and we're given the cars, and they've usually picked the PR people have picked a route, and it will always show the car off to its best light. Yeah. But the way that we got the Spring was slightly different. We were given an online sort of like presentation from Dacia UK. Told us all about the car, and we were sent out sort of like links to sort of like the press release and all the rest of it. And the cars were sent out to us, to use as we would any other sort of normal press car. But what was interesting with the email that I got from Dacia was there was a part of the email that made me sit up and take notice, where it said that the Spring was primarily designed as a city car. Oh, hang on, that's a traffic announcement. The Spring was primarily designed as a city car, so therefore that is the environment that it will perform at its best in. So what I am now going to do is ignore that completely, and I am going to take it well out of its comfort zone, if you like, because I do want to see if that is where maybe the compromise has to be made. In other words, it's only really going to perform well in that urban environment. So you're going to join me a little bit later on in a couple of different scenarios, because I really wanted to put this little car to the test. I really wanted to see what it was all about. So I will test this car out of its comfort zone, and then I will test it within its comfort zone and see if there is a compromise to be made in those areas, perhaps. But until then, what I can tell you this, in terms of power and performance and such like, I have the 65 horsepower model, the Extreme, and I think this is probably the one that you're going to want. You are going to want to spend the extra money and get the more powerful motor, I would suggest. Now, as I say, you can go for 14,995 and get the 45 horsepower Expression. That is the sort of like the headline grabbing figure. I would personally at least spend the extra 1,000 and get the 65 horsepower model. Not to 60. Well, it's what is it? 14 seconds. It's what you would expect for a little city car. That's exactly it. From that point of view, and that's what I mean. Recently on House of Cars, my other channel, I reviewed the Kia Picanto, which is a brilliant little car. And at the moment, where I'm driving the Spring and where I was driving the Picanto, it just drives just like that. There isn't really any downsides to the electric Spring than there is over that little petrol-powered Picanto. It's comfortable. I have a good driving position. I can see out of the car. The ride quality is surprisingly good considering the little tyres that it's on. As I said earlier in the interior, I do feel that door is quite close to me. What it feels like, what the car actually feels like to me, is slightly like a Mark 1 Fiat Panda. Now, I started selling Fiats back in 1992, and it was the Panda. The Panda was still new then, as in the original Panda was still our new small car for Fiat. We hadn't brought even the Cinquecento out then, let alone the Seicento or the 500. And it does remind me a lot of that original Panda, which is a car that I have a huge amount of love for. I had loads of them as demonstrators and sold a pile of them to customers. And that's the car that this reminds me of. You do have that slightly more enclosed driving position with the door right next to you, but you sit quite nicely high in the car. You get a good view out of it. It's very easy to steer. It's very light. Everything's within easy reach because it is quite a small car. That's the car that this is really reminding me of, the original Panda. And I love the original Panda. It's a brilliant car. So is this going to be another brilliant car? Well, as I say, let's take it out of its comfort zone first of all and find out. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the M25. Yes, I am going to take the little Spring out on the motorway and see how it performs out here. So, let's see how we get on. We're going between a couple of junctions on the M25 and just see how it does. So as I say, I've got the 65 horsepower model. Now you are going to need this car, I think, if you are doing any type of motorway work at all. You're going to need at least 65 horsepower around this sort of situation, I would suggest. So that's the first thing that I will say. But let me just get past this van. Here we go. Right. So that's as near as damn at 70 miles an hour on the M25. Feels absolutely fine to me. This does not feel out of its depth whatsoever. It's comfortable. Yes, there's a bit of wind noise, of course there is. It's a small car. I'm sitting really close to this window. Of course there is. But it's comfortable, ride quality wise. I can put my foot down. The car is now accelerating. Yeah, we're getting past that van there. I've got lane keep assist on. Oh, I can turn it off if I want. Yeah, this doesn't feel that much of a compromise, in fairness. Now, obviously, a motorway is going to hurt its range, and it doesn't have a particularly big range to start with. So don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting that if your commute is Birmingham to London every day, this is the car you should be buying. I'm not suggesting that at all. But my point is this. I was a little bit, not surprised, but it just was something that I noticed in that email from Dacia saying, almost telling me not to take it out on a motor. It was almost like that was inferred, that, you know, oh, it's a city car, maybe that's where you should review it. And I thought, well, why is that then? What does it feel like on a motorway? Obviously, I was reading something into it that's not there, because this feels absolutely fine. This is perfectly acceptable as far as I'm concerned. Got a comfortable driving position, I can see all around me. I'm doing 70 miles an hour in the outside lane of the M25. There's a little bit of wind noise, but no more than I would expect from any other car like this, of this size, in this environment. Doesn't feel scary. Feels absolutely fine. Yep. No compromise here. Works fine. Alright. Let's take it to somewhere it's a little bit more designed for, shall we? And see how that works. Now that we're off the motorway, let me just talk about the rest of the car before I get to where I'm going next. How does it feel generally driving it? The steering's really light. That's the first thing that you really will notice, and it doesn't really weight up, irrespective of where you go. Maybe that's what they meant, in terms of, city driving, town driving. It's what it's best at, because the steering doesn't get heavier as well. So you do have to watch yourself a little bit. If you are out on the open road, for instance, maybe a motorway or a faster A road, the steering doesn't weight up its speed as such. It's still quite light to use. That being said, it's really, 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 really nice to use, in terms of it's a very easy little car to place on the road, which makes it, just lovely to drive in some ways. The brakes are fairly sharp. You've got to watch yourself a little bit. Gosh, that's a strong sun. You've got to watch yourself a little bit with the brakes, because if you stand on them quite quickly thinking, they'll not be particularly sharp, you'll be surprised. They are. There is one level of brake regeneration available to you. So the transmission lever down here, the toggle switch down here, you just, like you do on most of these small cars, you bring it back from D mode, the drive mode, into the B mode, the braking mode, and then all of a sudden there's a lot more recuperation available to you. Just the one level. But most people will probably find that fine, and it just makes, again, driving the car around about town that little bit easier. As I said to you when I was up on the open road, the ride quality is actually pretty good. Again, you don't feel jarring and jolting around. The expansion joints on the motorway weren't giving it any real cause for concern. There's a few sort of like exposed potholes and manhole and drain covers round about here as well, where I'm coming off. They're not giving it any real cause for, or me any real cause for concern. Just go through a couple of them there. No, that's all right. There's a lot more expensive cars that are a lot worse than this. as I say, I'm sort of struggling really to see where the, dare I suggest, any sort of form of compromise is going to be. There's no driving modes. There is an eco mode. Well, I told you we lied there. There is an eco mode down there. As you press that and it goes into eco mode. I'd avoid that. I don't think you need it. In fact, in fairness, I didn't even notice it was there. I thought it would just be sort of like almost one size fits all, and it pretty much is. But yeah, this is a decent little car. This does not feel out of its depth when you get it up onto these more open roads. Right, we're in Windsor. Now, Windsor's a town that's pretty much just our local town. We live just along the road there near Egham. So although that's our main town, Windsor's where we always come to go shopping as a family and, do stuff. So nice restaurants, nice cafes, some good shops and that type of thing. Now, the reason I'm doing this was because the other day, my wife and I were in Windsor. And the car park that we normally park in is called Windsor Yards. And it is without doubt one of the tightest multi-stories around here to get in and out of. To the point we just do not bring our Jeep into Windsor anymore because it is so ridiculously tight to get in and out of the car park. Traffic announcement. And we normally bring our little Mini to go in and out. And I thought, well, but the other day we didn't bring the Mini. We brought my Genesis GV70, and it just reminded me of why we just don't like coming here with a big car. And I thought, well, what a perfect little test for the manoeuvrability of the Spring was to bring it into Windsor and to stick it in the multi-story. So I've got a camera mounted up out on the outside of the car to show you what it's like, and obviously I'm going to talk to you now on this camera, and I'm going to put another camera on the way back out so you can see what it's like, because you've got the really big high curbs as you go in and out of the parking bays. You've got really tight turns to go up the ramps, and the parking bays themselves are ridiculous. So I thought, well, this is the perfect opportunity. I've got the car today, why not bring it along here and see how it gets on with it? Because this is where I think Dacia are sort of like seeing the car at its best. This is what that email was all about, test it in the sort of like the town environment. So here I am in the town. So here we go. Parking, Windsor Yards. This is where we're going. The turning circle of the car is ridiculously small. I think they said it's 4.8 meters. I mean, it's tiny, this car can literally just turn round on itself almost. Reminds me a little bit of the Honda E. That was the same. That had a really, really tight turning circle. So it should be ideal, to help me get round about this car park. Right, here we go. Let's go. Right, round the roundabout and into Windsor Yards. So the first thing is the entrance is really tight in here. Here we go. Oh, that's just simple. In fact, it actually feels. Now here we go. Here's these really big curbs along the side. Hang on, because I'm going to need to get a ticket. Can't believe how small this feels in here. Last time I was in here, I was just edging forward in a big 4x4, and now I've got this tiny little car. Well, I'm saying a tiny little car. It doesn't feel tiny in some respects. It feels like a decent size of car. Put that parking ticket down here. So let's go up a couple of floors. Let's just see how the manoeuvrability is around here. The steering really comes into its own around here. This really light steering. I mean, as I say, it will just the heel of your hand just turns the car easily. The downside is it doesn't really weight up at speed, so you do lack a little bit of feel when you are out on open roads. But let's judge the car for where it's meant to be judged. And as I say, this is the perfect environment. So here's the first ramp. I mean, these things are, you can see where people have hit the walls and gone into the curbs and stuff all around here. It feels minuscule in comparison with what I was here in last. It genuinely does. Absolutely minuscule. Well, they've got some electric car chargers there. Oh, this is just simplicity itself. A Fiat 500 would feel like a Range Rover in comparison with this. The next test I'm going to give it is to park. Once I wait for these people to get out of the way. I don't know if you can see how tight these parking bays are in here. There's a Mini sat there, and it's they've got sort of like the black squares painted in the parking bays to show you the space that you're supposed to occupy, and there's a Mini bleeding over the edges of that square, of that space that they're supposed to have. I mean, that's ridiculous how small these parking spaces are. You've normally got to take a couple of swipes at it. If you're in anything bigger than this, you've normally got to take a couple of swipes at the to get round those bits, but not in this. This is perfect. Right, let me go and see if I can find a parking bay that would normally be quite tricky to get into. Although I can't see anything being tricky in this car. Oh, hello. Oh. Simple as that. And you've got the reverse camera, and you've got parking sensors all around. I meant to say that you get front parking sensors as well. It just works. It's just a great little car. Now I need to go and pay for the parking. So parking really wasn't much of a problem for it, was it? Gosh, I can't get over how manoeuvrable this little thing is. It's such a great little car in these tight environments. I've just, 2 cars down from me, I should have taken a picture of it, was a Fiat 500X, you know, the old kind of mini SUV style Fiat, and it was sat next to a Range Rover Evoque, and it looked huge in comparison. Right, now to get out. This is what I mean, these curbs are quite high, but it's just, normally you're inching down here in a big SUV, but in this it's just, look at that, one-handed. Oh, such a joy, this little car round here. Absolute joy. I love small cars. Right, this is the bit that always makes me wince when you're coming out here. Especially, and as I say, in something like a Jeep or my Genesis, because the curbs are so high. But not today. Not today in the little Spring. So, it performs well through the town, it performs well out on the motorway, it performs well on the back roads around the town, and it performs well in the multi-storey car park. Yep, not many compromises here, is there? What a great little car. Nice and simple little car, nice and simple little pricing. 2 models. You start with the Expression, which you can have with either the 45 horsepower motor or a 65 horsepower motor. If you go for the 45 one, it's 14,995. The 65 one is 15,995. Your next model up is this, the Extreme, which only comes with the 65 horsepower model. Now that adds quite a lot of extra equipment as well. So you get the 10-inch touchscreen with the Apple CarPlay, the Android Auto, electric mirrors, USB ports inside, and the vehicle to load ability and electric rear windows, okay? So that adds all of that, and it only comes in the 65 horsepower motor. That's 16,995. See, like I said, nice, simple pricing. No compromise there. Now, as far as the competition is concerned, in some respects the car sort of stands alone, depending on your viewpoint. If you're looking at it purely as an electric vehicle, in other words, I'm only interested in electric cars, that's all I'm going to buy, then the Spring really does stand on its own. For the moment, in fairness, because we're about to see some cheaper electric cars coming onto the market. The Citroen EC3, the Fiat Grande Panda, Renault's 5. I mean, okay, it's more than this, but you know, they've announced it starts at 22,995, that car. So we are starting to see electric cars creep down in price. And of course, there's the other small car that we absolutely love, the Hyundai Insta. But even those are still quite a significant amount more than where the Spring starts. So maybe you're not going to just compare it to other electric cars. Maybe you're just looking at a small city car and you're looking at electric mobility with the Spring in the same way as maybe you would have looked at whether or not you buy a diesel car, you know, 10, 20 years ago, whatever. So things such as the Kia Picanto, Hyundai i10, the Toyota Aygo X, they are other cars that within this sort of bracket of market space that I think that you're also going to consider with this. Now obviously they're going to give you more range from a tank of fuel, of course they are, but think about how you're using the car and think about those running costs, and dare I suggest maybe going all electric with something like the Spring if you are just using the car for nipping to the shops and back, to nipping to the office and back, for driving to the local railway station before you get the train into the city centre, for dropping the kids at school, for doing the Saturday shop, you know, for dropping them at rugby practice or whatever. It is a compelling argument, this, and at 14,995 starting price, having a new electric car rather than a used one does make an awful lot of sense, perhaps. See, here's what we like, and also what we don't like about the new Dacia Spring. Well, we like the car's design. It's quite a practical little car. The driving environment is really well designed and really well built, and also very well equipped. Obviously its price and the fact that it does drive genuinely well. We don't like, well, of course the rear space is slightly restricted and nowhere near as good as something like the Hyundai Insta. Of course, you really do need the 65 horsepower model, and those charging speeds do limit your time, perhaps on a longer journey. It's hard not to be won over by the Dacia Spring, and what makes it even better is the fact that it's built like every other Dacia model that the company make. It's not a company that's sort of like that would normally give us a big plush SUV and now built a small car down to a price. There really isn't any differences in this car to there is in the other Dacia models that you can go into the showrooms and buy. They work off three pillars. There is essential but cool, outdoors and robust, and eco-smart, and those are three pillars that work as well here in the Spring as they do in a £28,000 Duster. This is the car that's going to turn a lot of people onto electric mobility as far as I can see, because it just works as a small city car. It just happens to be powered by electricity. And of course that starting price of 14,995 means that it is very possible to get into a new electric car for used electric car money. And as far as I can see, there really isn't many compromises to be made at all. As far as I can see, this is the electric car that we've all been waiting for. Thank you for watching another review on AutoEV. As always, please make sure you are subscribed to the AutoEV channel. Then once you've done that, make sure you've pressed the little bell button that's down below, because that's the way you get notified when our next video is uploaded and it's gone live. If you have enjoyed this week's video, and I do hope you have, then of course give it a little thumbs up, and don't forget, leave me your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think about the cars we review on the channel, such as the new Dacia Spring, and of course on the AutoEV channel as a whole. Have you never considered an electric car before because of their price? Is this something that would now tempt you? Have you been about to go out and buy your kids their first car, or the second car for the family, and thought, hang on a second, this makes an awful lot of sense in terms of its running costs and how easy it would be to run as a family? Let me know in the comment section down below. Now remember, we're across all social media platforms as well. So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, X, and even TikTok. So we're there as well. So give us a follow there, because that certainly does help the channel. And remember, whether or not you are in the market for a new car, it might be a second-hand EV you're looking for, and you need to know all there is to know about it. How do you find out? Well, what you do is you stick on the AutoEV homepage on the YouTube channel, and at the top there you'll see a little magnifying glass. If you type the name of the model you're interested in there, then what it will do is, if it's been a new car in the UK in the last 4 or 5 years, then we've probably subjected it to the road test that car buyers trust when it comes to choosing their next electric vehicle. And that, folks, is the AutoEV one. All that remains for me to say is thank you once again for watching. Thank you for continuing to support the channel. I'll see you again soon.